Would you still head to the polls if you knew that your vote was just going to get thrown in the trash? Of course not. Which is exactly why you need to know the truth about ranked choice voting. Also known as instant runoff voting, ranked choice voting destroys everything we know about free and fair elections. Unlike a traditional election, each voter is expected to vote for every listed candidate in order of preference. Also, unlike a traditional election where the candidate with the most votes wins, a candidate must have a majority of votes to win. If there's no majority winner in the first round, the losing candidate is eliminated. The people who voted for the loser in the first round then have their second choice votes counted in the next round. This process continues until there is finally a majority winner. The problem is that thousands of votes are trashed along the way to create this supposed majority. These voters weren't willing to vote against their conscience, so their votes are gone. These voters got confused and filled out their ballots incorrectly, so their votes are gone too. And these folks ended up casting votes for candidates they never would have voted for otherwise. The result is that a much smaller manufactured pool of voters ultimately decides the election, to the exclusion of thousands of other voters. Any system that throws out legitimate votes and requires voters to vote against their conscience is problem enough. It's a far cry from the ideal that gives every voter a voice and a vote that matters. This scheme undermines the integrity of our elections, and it must be rejected.
Wow. Ranked choice voting is from the pit of hell, if you ask me. That's why today we're joined by Representative Maddock. He's the senior Republican leader in the Michigan House of Representatives. He represents the 51st House District in Oakland County, including Highland Township, Milford, White Lake, and surrounding communities. Representative Maddock currently serves as vice chair of the Michigan House Appropriations Committee, placing him at the center of the most consequential decisions the legislature makes. Budgets reveal priorities, and appropriations determine whether policy debates are symbolic or real. Did you just not see the budget that was passed that had a decrease? I don't know of any legislative body that only has a House Republican leadership, but has a Senate Democrat leadership and a governor's mansion that will ever succeed in decreasing the budget. Maddock was part of that. Beyond budget battles, Representative Maddock has become one of the most outspoken voices in Michigan on election integrity, constitutional process, and the limits of government power. He has been deeply involved in the debate over ranked choice voting and has raised the alarms about what he sees as coordinated efforts to fundamentally change how elections operate in Michigan, not through transparent legislative debate, but through ballot initiatives and legal maneuvering. At the same time, Representative Maddock has found himself personally and professionally impacted by federal actions during the Biden administration. He has publicly stated that he and his wife were swept into what has been described as the Arctic Frost investigation, raising serious questions about civil liberties, political targeting, and the use of federal power against elected officials and their families. Representative Maddock, welcome back to Detroit's Morning Answer.
Hey, thanks for having me on, John.
You know,
It's a beautiful day in Michigan.
You are truly a breath of fresh air because you're willing to tackle some of the toughest subjects for the people. And every time I see your posts, I have to like them because you take on a lot. I see a lot of the stuff that people say about you, and I'm just cheering you on from the gallery, sir.
Well, the way I look at it, you're not doing your job if the communists aren't really, really going after you. And this whole ranked choice voting, I think one of the single most important talking points about ranked choice voting is the fact that the Communist Party in the United States, these commies that have embedded themselves, that are hiding all over the United States, part of their platform, their party platform says, we must implement ranked choice voting.
Wow.
If the Communist Party wants ranked choice voting, why would anyone in America want ranked choice voting?
Wow, that's a great point. Now, Representative, walk us through what the proposed ban on ranked choice voting would actually do and what it would not do. What are people misunderstanding about your bill as introduced?
Well, the ranked choice voting ban bill is to protect our civil liberties and our actual democracy and our republic. It's been one person, one vote for hundreds of years in this nation, and ranked choice voting, it dissolves all of that. It doesn't count everyone's vote. It's confusing. A lot of, the communists know what they're doing. They're very, very smart people, okay?
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest problems with ranked choice voting is the confusion aspect, because as you get older, and most people that are older vote, and number two, they're most likely to be conservative. And the intimidation factor of the ranked choice voting process will discourage probably at least 30 to 40% of these older people from voting. So we're going to lose a lot of our Republican base, the conservative older generation in this nation that are smart enough to know what's going on. So that's one of the big threats. It is very, very confusing. And typically when this happens in a state like Maine, the liberals win about 15 to 20% more elections statewide.
Yeah. And the confusion is in the ballot instructions, the tabulation, the recounts, and the public understanding of the results, correct? Because I know in Alaska, Sarah Palin fell victim to the ranked choice voting, and that's how Lisa Murkowski got back into the U.S. Senate.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, she's not a Republican. Everyone knows that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Her congressional opponent. She ran for Congress in Alaska. I know it was trying, and it's popping his head up in places like South Carolina. I talked with the lieutenant governor about it, and they want to introduce it in South Carolina because the Democrats have not had control per se of South Carolina. And do you see that too? Places where Democrats know that they can't really get control because the voters will never vote for them, that these are the places. I know they want to do it in Texas because they have their eyes on Texas. They want to take Texas. Are you seeing that too as you've been talking about it and doing your own research about it, that in places where it's deep red, Democrats want this to be introduced so that they can gain power? Have you seen that?
Well, everyone knows now that the Democrats can never win elections if they don't cheat. If the Democrats can't cheat, they're never going to be in power. Yeah. And this is just another method of cheating on a large-scale basis. And they've convinced a lot of people that it's a good thing. And the media is all in on it, too. Our fake news media here in Michigan, Detroit News, Detroit Free Press, and many others are all for ranked choice voting. You're never going to see them criticize ranked choice voting. So they're all in on the deal. It's another scam, and we need to protect ourselves. It's going to be on the ballot, and everyone needs to know. Like I said before, I think the single most important talking point is the fact that the Communist Party has this as part of their platform, and they want it badly.
Wow. Everywhere it's been implemented. I'll tell you a state that doesn't want to do it is in Illinois because the Democrats have a handle on it. Do you talk about the communists, though? Is that why we now have election season and not election day? Because they have been quietly moving to change how we do elections in this country. Is that how we got election season, Representative?
I think so. I mean, the Communist Party is alive and well here in Michigan, and there's a lot of the Democrats that are actually, they call themselves Democrats, but they're actually communists, in my belief.
I'm writing a book, my third book, called The Counterfeit Republic, and how Marxism has infiltrated every aspect of our society and has brought us people like Madami, the Squad. I can't wait till I'm done with it. Let's talk about Arctic frost. You said that you were placed on what you describe as a Biden administration enemies list. Start from the beginning. How did you first learn you were involved in the Arctic frost investigation?
I didn't see my name listed until it was actually published a couple months ago. Myself and my wife, Michonne, were both on the list. Michonne is an elector, a Trump elector.
Yeah.
They call them fake electors, but they were actually genuine, real electors. The reason we did the electors is because there was a lifeboat, because if, in fact, we were to prove that they cheated, we didn't have enough time to do it, unfortunately, but everything was being investigated, and if the cheating was proven, if they had not sent an alternate slate of electors aside, not on top of the other electors, side by side, not to cancel anything they did out, we wouldn't have had the opportunity like happened in Hawaii in 1961. It would not have happened.
Right. And here, listen to what Tulsi had to say about the elections of 2020.
I've got a long list of things that we're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time. and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
Now, Representative, I lost my YouTube channel because I challenged and questioned there not being enough election integrity as it relates to our elections. We know that this happened in Michigan. When you listen to what Tulsi Gabbard has to say, I mean, that's been your cry from since the 2020 elections, correct?
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Trump just announced yesterday they have a truckload of information, and I just can't stop thinking about my friend Yehuda Miller, who literally rented a U-Haul truck and took a bunch of through the FOIA and Freedom of Information Act requests in Detroit. They gave him literally a truckload of voting material that's being analyzed, and I have a sneaking suspicion that when President Trump was talking about a truckload of information, I think Detroit information that was not subpoenaed, but FOIA'd is going to play a big role in that.
And you know what, Representative? I think people really need to know this because people don't understand what happens when the government puts its full weight on you. What was the cost of being you and your wife? I'm sure the legal fees mounted. I'm sure. How was it? What was it? How did it affect your children, your household? I would love for you to explain this out to the listeners who are listening so they can truly understand why President Trump is so adamant and so hell-bent on figuring out not only what happened in 2020, but also this disinformation and lawfare that happened with our government on United States citizens. Can you lay out what actually happened? What was the impact and cost that you and your beautiful wife had to endure and your kids?
I mean, the monetary cost was small compared to the emotional cost, and it was stressful for us. This thing went on for almost 3 years, and we spent about $40,000 in legal fees. And we're a family of faith, and we put our trust in God as always, and we knew that this is going to be a Romans 8:28 situation.
Love it.
And we were not in fear. You know, it was oftentimes anxious. We can't help but feelings of anxiety over this, but we are not fearful people, and we knew this would work out eventually. So it wasn't that hard on us.
Here's a question for you. What does courage look like in politics when the cost is peace at home?
That's a great question. I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, we, our family's been involved in politics for many, many years. I've been a delegate since I think 1997 was the first time I got, officially involved in politics as a precinct delegate. And the reason I got involved is because I was sick and tired and fed up with Republicans that campaign in our core beliefs and our core values and our platform, and they'd get elected and go to D.C. or Lansing and vote against our core principles. And I was just sick and tired of that, and that's how I got started in politics.
Wow. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Now, please walk us through how, in God's green earth, did the Michigan Republicans get a budget passed that reduced the amount appropriated? How, Representative? I'm a former representative of Illinois. I know that would never happen in Illinois. There are a lot of states this would never happen. And I talked to Speaker Hall right after it was passed, and I said to him, how were you guys able to pull this off? Because I really don't think the people understand how tough budget negotiation. I sat on an appropriations committee. I don't think people understand how tough it is to not only get a budget passed, but get one passed that's reduced. How did that happen?
I give a lot of credit to Speaker Hall. He is courageous, and he's the third speaker that I've served under, and the first two speakers could have done the same thing, but it just was not an issue for them, and they had other things on their mind, and we realized, looking back, that they were both corrupt, and they had other issues that were more important to them than saving the taxpayers' money and looking for the fraud, waste, and abuse. But Speaker Hall's done a great job. Yeah. And it can't be done. This is the first time in Michigan history, other than a recession or a war, that the budget has been reduced, and that never happens. And it's going to happen again next term too. We need to retain the House, and I feel confident we can do that. And we're going to We're going to cut more fraud, waste, and abuse because there's literally billions of dollars of fraud, waste, and abuse in Lansing.
Yeah. And you guys are what, 1 seat away from the Senate? Imagine if let's play this out. You guys get the Senate and you get the Michigan governorship. Now, in order to do that, the people have to get out and vote. Explain to the people that are listening under the sound of my voice why it's important to vote Republican this next cycle. And because in order to do what you guys want to get done, you definitely have to have the governor's mansion. But if you get the Senate, that's an added bonus. Talk to the people as to why this election is so important.
I often have conversations with young men. For example, I was standing in line at an event in Dearborn, actually, when they were going through when the people in Dearborn were revolting about all the sexual things that were involved in their schools. And I was talking to about 5 or 6 guys that were standing in line behind me. And I said, how you guys involved in politics? I just started asking questions about politics. And I said, no, we don't vote, man. It doesn't make any difference. We don't vote, man. I said, okay, I want every one of you 4 guys to give me your wallet. Seriously, reach in your pocket and give me your wallet. They reached in their pockets. They gave me their wallet. And I started taking money out of their wallet. They said, what are you doing? I said, I'm not going to take your money. What I'm saying is, if you don't vote, the government's always going to take more money out of your pocket, no matter what. That's the default of government, is to grow government, to take more of your money and your hard-earned savings. And if you don't vote, you're going to keep giving them more money, and then your life's going to be, you're going to have less money yourself. And it made an impression on them. But the truth is, if we don't vote, and there is not one aspect of life that government and voting and politics does not affect.
That is so true.
If you're a Christian, we have an obligation to vote. Okay, we also have an obligation to run for office because, if you look at the arena in which we lose our Judeo-Christian values, picture the Roman Colosseum, for example, the floor on the Colosseum floor. That arena of politics, inside that arena is where we lose our Judeo-Christian values. So we need more gladiators fighting in the war of politics inside that arena. And that's how the Democrats and the communists know this, and they're winning all these local elections. For example, we have school boards all over the state in conservative areas, and they're a bunch of communists. It's happened everywhere in Michigan.
Wow, Representative Maddock, I want to thank you so much for coming on Detroit's Morning Answer. Where can people follow you and find you?
I think Twitter or X is really good for us right now. Facebook isn't so good, but if you just search my name, Matt Maddock, on X or Facebook, do a little bit of the other social media platforms, but not much. I think I think Twitter's where it's at for us right now. And I think Elon Musk has done a great job with Twitter, and it's a great platform for us. And if you're not on social media, you should be, because it's a great way to influence people.
That's the arena too. That's the arena. We don't have enough of us on there. And prior to, they were kicking us all off. Representative Matt Maddock, representing the 51st House District in Oakland County, Highland Township, Milford, White Lake. Thanks so much for joining us today on Detroit's Morning Answer.
God bless you, and thanks for all the work you're doing. You're a ray of light, and you do a great job.
Thank you, and please let your wife know I want her on the show too. I've been trying to work out getting her on the show. I've heard nothing but amazing things about her. I know Vance Patrick absolutely loves her. We were talking about you guys yesterday during breakfast.
We'll get her on. Let's see if we can get her on next week.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Thanks.
Representative, you too. Representative Matt Dog Maddock. We'll be right back.